Welcome back. We're now on Disc 2. See, my ideal version of this game is that it would be 3 discs, like the PS1 RPG Final Fantasy 7 through 9 style, or like Parasite Eve, which is why I call it Disc 2, because it's how I imagine it would be as a kid, and that the graphics would be similar to the Final Fantasy 7 or 8 style, or maybe even a touch of Parasite Eve style. Anyways, here's a new image I want you to look at, just like with Disc 1. And don't worry too much about it, we'll discuss this later as well, but I just want you to look at this image and tell me what you think it is. Now let's get started. Auden fell unconscious in his battle with Ray and wakes up swinging, open his wounds back up. The Golden Warrior tells him to rest, and Auden is confused and angry. He asks the warrior if he's even real and what happened to Ray and Mila and the gods, and begins to attack him. The Golden Warrior calms Auden down and tells him he's not sure what's going on and tells his backstory. The Golden Warrior is from the distant past. He was a grunt soldier whom his leader took a liking to, and they became very close like a father and son. The king offered him to be his right-hand man and to take care of his family. However, taking this offer meant that he would learn the dark secrets of his kingdom, and if he were to quit being his right hand, it would mean death. The Golden Warrior took the offer, and the dark secret was they would take life essence to make armor and weapons. Back then, they used coins for currency, and they would bury life essence, so stealing them and using them for strength was extremely taboo for the time. Even though they do something similar in this day and age, they can't replicate it as good as they did back then. They did this to make strong armor to hide their thoughts from God, because back then, there was only one God. He used to be a very good God, but turned evil. He almost killed every living thing, and the armor could sense God's power and pinpoint its location. So the equipment and weapons were made to fight and slay God. So after years of training and planning before the battle, the king takes the Golden Warrior to a nearby cave. He thanks him for always being by his side and that he loves him like a son, and he has one last task for him, and that's to stay there in case they fail, where he will have a second chance of defeating the god, and he puts a spell on the cave, keeping the Golden Warrior safe and puts him in his deep slumber. The king will awaken him once he defeats God, but if he dies, the spell will be gone and he will wake up. The Golden Warrior agrees to this plan and is put to sleep. However, there is a problem. When he woke up, everything he knew was gone. And there were 3 gods, and now a 4th one has appeared. Not only that, there are angels, and his armor is picking up energy from all over the world. Sometimes the energy spikes greatly, like at the prison, or when they encounter the angel. It happens around Auden, which made the Golden Warrior watch over him. So some content here. On some of the hunts, Auden will be saved by the Golden Warrior, but Auden never knew who protected him. Neither would the player, until this point. Anyways, the Golden Warrior tells him not to worry about the gods, he will kill them, and he will still watch over Auden from time to time. He gives Auden a lot of life essence for a hotel in a town nearby, and tells him to live a normal life, and one day he might come to him for help. Auden can't sleep, and his mind really snaps this time, because he is sick of all the bad things that keep happening to him all the time, and starts hitting himself and cutting himself. Child Auden fights with Auden, and Auden finally tells him all he wants is a normal life, with love, and he bets his real parents would have hated him, and that they gave him away because they knew he would suffer. Auden tells Child Auden he is sick of him being weak. Then another entity appears, telling Auden he will make him strong. Child Auden tells him not to listen and to fight it. But the entity tells Auden he is the one always getting hurt. So before giving up, be the one who destroys others and make them hurt and suffer. He takes Auden to his prison and tells him to be the warden and put others in here, and to off himself off afterwards. He tells Auden to become an all-powerful god in his own world. The living shall suffer because of him and his decisions and actions. Because Auden isn't weak, he is a god. Child Auden tries to stop the entity, but Auden kills him, and the entity devours Auden, slowly devouring him, telling him over and over that he is God. Showing how Auden's finally let go and his broken mind is in control. 3 years have gone by, and we see that Auden now looks a lot different. And he's torturing a man, and tells him to desire for freedom to bring the gods to him. The man can't, so he kills him and his son, and pukes afterwards. A few months go by, and Auden talks about how finding Ray in his own way isn't working, and he's getting sick apparently from his actions, and is also implying that he's done this a few times, which is caught content on Disc 2. Anyways, he finds a town to lay low in, and while laying low, he hears talk of a 3rd army joining the war, causing much problems to the acolytes in the inferior army. Note here, the lady mentions 3 armies, so wouldn't it be 4? Well, technically, a spoiler alert, the beasts really aren't an army. The beasts are just fishes fighting others just because they are near their territory or they want to expand their own. Not necessarily in the war, just to make that clear. Afterwards, the lady bumps into Auden, noticing he has a lot of weapons in his bag. Auden then seeks refuge at the town's church to see if he can think like Ray to understand him and the gods more. Apparently, Auden's been going from church to church and service to service every time he can to learn about the gods in order to summon them. A week goes by, and Auden at the church only feels a strange feeling, the same feeling that he felt when he first met the gods. However, it is leading him to nowhere, so he plans on leaving but gathers life essence from beasts since he's low on funds. Torturing the beasts as well in hopes they summon the gods. It fails fails and he goes to church one last time, and he asks the church member if God ever appeared at church. The church member says yes, if you praise God, you will feel him, which is what Aden's experiencing. Aden tells him he means does God ever show himself in the flesh other than in his spirit? And the member says only if the service is really good. God will appear and bless them. Aden asks if he's ever witnessed that, and he tells Aden he has not recently because people don't believe like they used to, but last time he saw it was when the town's leader came to pray a few years back. Aden asks when does he usually go to church, and the member says not often because the war's gotten worse. And this is a small town and no one knows they are here, but the leader is always on patrol, since it seems the new army's getting closer and closer to them. Aden wonders if he should worry about this new army, and we then see the new Aden, which is Devil Aden, hint it is the same color text as the entity that devoured him, and Devil Aden tells him not to worry and to go after the town's leader. Henry, the town leader, and his brother Gregory are discussing their concerns about the new army and the weird dream everyone's been having. The dream is these words: "Go to the center of the world. You shall be protected on your journey. Your heart will show you the way." Now this happens in the original story, more on that later. Anyways, Gregory doesn't know what it means, but he knows where to go. Henry wants to follow the dream, but doesn't know if the townspeople will listen to it. He thinks it's from the Lord, but isn't sure since he hasn't felt anything while praying in a while. They talk about the new army some more, and Gregory tells them not to worry, they have a backup plan, and leaves. However, Aden appears out of nowhere and abducts Henry. Aden tells him all he has to do is pray to the gods and bring them there, like he has done at the church before. Aden tells Henry he weakened him with a potion because he knows he's a servant of God, because if he wasn't, it would have killed him with the amount of dosage he gave him. Aden tells him he will be the first servant he has ever played with, because cut content the other servants he straight up fought and killed. Anyways, Aden tells him he would love to experiment on him but doesn't have the time, and tells him all he needs is for him to bring him one of the gods, and begins to play with him. And we see Lawson Wren in his mind helping him play with Henry. Henry threatens to kill Aden, and Aden tells him he hopes he does. Henry begins to pray and turns into this butterfly creature. The gods give him a new skill to split in half, and one half goes to Gregory, who's searching for him and tells him where to find him. And then he goes back to normal. Aden caught him calling out for help and has no choice but to kill him. They fight, and after the battle, before Aden can kill Henry, his brother arrives and Aden flees. Gregory is so mad at this, he threatens to hunt Aden down to the ends of the earth. Henry tells Gregory Aden isn't worth it, and the Lord told him to tell Gregory to gather all the people in town and to go to the center of the world. His heart will guide him. Henry tells him he won't be able to go since he's used up the last of his strength and dies. Gregory is now the leader and goes against his brother's wishes in anger and tells this soldier to gather all the funds of the town because he needs them to reach out to someone, and vows to kill Aden no matter what it takes. A week has went by and Aden is still traveling around committing crimes. It still makes him sick. With no town in sight, he decides to camp outside in the woods near our Lord's Halo. He wakes up to a commotion and he sees a woman attempting to kill two beasts. She tells Aden she was waiting for him since she thought he was heading towards beast territory, since he's a wanted criminal. Unbeknownst to her, Aden was just walking around aimlessly. She tells him she got bored and started killing the beast, and that he has a huge number on his head for what he did to Henry. It turns out Gregory hired her to kill him, and that he must be strong since they didn't ask for hunters. Aden knows it's Gregory after him since he never got caught with any of his other crimes. She tells him her name is Marla, and that she works for a special force known as Tricky. They hunt humans, beasts, and those who encountered God. Only the extremely rich and powerful knows of them. Even some coming kings don't even know about them. But Gregory sold everything, even the town itself, to get the money to put a hit on Aden. They battle, and after the battle, which Aden barely won, and he mentions her weird weapon. She tells Aden more are after him, and that they're even stronger than she is. Maybe even the leader of the Tricky, the father himself, might be after him. Hearing of the father, Tricky scares the two beasts, and Aden paralyzes them to keep them from fleeing, and informs them he will spare them if they tell him all about the father, Tricky. They say it's just a story they heard to scare them when they were younger, but the father is very strong and makes his own weapons and techniques and started the Tricky organization. He lives in the main city of the beast where the Lord of all beasts lives. Aden demands that they take him to the city of the beast, and they tell him only the wealthy and strongest beasts are allowed to live there, and they are too weak. Aden threatens them because he wants to see the father, Tricky, to get stronger. A few weeks go by and the Lord of Beasts learns of Aden and his group of beasts poking around the city in search of the father. Amused by this, he makes a way for Aden to meet with the father at a restaurant by requesting the father and to have word slip to the beast with Aden that the father's at the restaurant, just to see how it plays out. After a while, Aden warns the two beasts they better not be setting him up or he really will hurt them. At the restaurant, Aden meets with the father. The beasts are upset that another human is at the restaurant and attacks Aden. After quickly killing the beast, the other beasts leave him be in hopes that he kills the father. The father thinks to himself that with his setup, Aden can't beat him, and like how many others in the restaurant notice, notice, but Auden has madness in his eyes. Auden demands the father to take the hit off his head and to train him to be a tricky. If he refuses, Devil Auden tells him he won't stop until he kills everything and everyone until he's either killed them all or been killed himself. The father feels sorry for Auden and tells him he can't win, and then they begin to fight. After the father defeats Auden, he uses his last resort and knows the father has a soft side and grabs one of the beasts that have been helping him and threatens to shove a knife where a knife shouldn't be shoved, unless the father meets his demands. The father feels so sorry for Auden that he agrees if he doesn't hurt anyone, and he tells Auden and his beast to follow him, and he informs the two beasts that he will protect them as well. The father takes him to his house, and Auden has a tussle with Olin in his mind because he hasn't thought of him in a while, and for him to pop up like this, like the devil to torment him, takes him off. The father snaps him out of it by telling him his name, which is Yuza. Auden tells him his name, and they go inside. Inside, Auden offers a large sum of life essence to Yuza for training him, which he refuses and tells Auden he can't take the hit off him, but he can tell the other trickies to stop pursuing him, and ask him why does he really want him to train him. Auden tells him that he heard Yuza can fight angels and would like to learn how to because he is looking for a man who encountered God. Yuza understands and tells him in exchange for training him, he will have to do two things. One is to take the Lord's Beast request, which involves killing strong beasts that try to come against him, which he can use as practice, and he will think of the second one later. Now, on cut content, Auden would take on these requests, killing the beast for fun, to release his rage because around Yuza he can't run amok. Anyways, they go to bed and they would train in the morning. Auden has a dream of when Farah named him, which is important. Olin shows her the caves they'd be living in, and she says, Den? Auden, and names him Auden, showing she put so little effort because at the time she didn't really care for him, because instantly she was too concerned for herself. However, when Auden was a child, he thought it was clever. She then turns around and then turns back to Auden and begins to hit him. Now, she doesn't say any of this. She just turns around and punches him a few times, and Auden remembers the first time Farah ever hit him, and the thing she says here are in his head was this is why he thinks she hit him and how she felt, which could have subconsciously gave him the manifestation of the cruel Farah that we see in his mind. Another cut content moment up until this point, Auden's been cutting himself, fighting others, or having Devil Auden talk to him, and doesn't have Olin or his thoughts tormenting him. It only started when he starts living with Yuza. Maybe it's triggering where he used to live with Mila and Ray, which annoys him. Even here, Devil Auden tells him to stop thinking of them because God doesn't let weaklings trouble him, and tells him to kill them, aka stop thinking about them. The next morning, Yuza makes Auden a tricky weapon. He names it this because they can help you in any situation, make you unpredictable, and tricking the enemy. He tells Auden with his skills, he can use this weapon to its full potential. It has a nasty sucker punch like Ray's weapon. He says tricky weapons are made with life essence like enchanted items and weapons, but it's more taboo because it needs the user's actual life, which requires a lot of blood from the user. He can also use the weapon like a saw, sword, even a spear. He even gives him powerful enchanted magical gloves to cast spells. However, if the user doesn't know magic, casting the spells will take the user's health away instead. So the stronger the spell, the more health it takes from the user. This is important for later. Now with all that out of the way, it's time for the final preparation, and Yuza attacks Auden with the weapon. Auden faints due to the loss of blood, and after a while he wakes up. Yuza tells him he thought he killed him and then shoots Auden. Auden summons the weapon to block the attack, and Yuza tells him he can now summon the weapon because it is infused with his blood, and that he can even place the weapon on the ground and summon himself to it. Think of it like Noctis in Final Fantasy 15 to explain it better. He tells Auden he thought he killed him because his blood wasn't infusing with the weapon, and the weapon was infusing with him, so he thought he was going to die from blood loss. He tells Auden to get some rest and they'll train tomorrow. A few months have went by, and Yuza compliments Auden on his skills and tells him they've gotten closer, and yet he can see a lot of madness in Auden, but through it all he can see that Auden is a kind-hearted man carrying a heavy burden. Auden gets mad thinking Yuza knows nothing about him and asks him why did he agree to train with him when he easily could have killed him. Yuza tells him it's because Auden reminds him of himself, and he tells Auden he doesn't like fighting but he has to. When he saved enough money from the tricky organization, he wanted to quit and run away, but his fiancée, she didn't agree with his decision and they split. Auden asks why does the Lord of Beasts let him live here instead of killing him. Yuza thinks it's because he amuses him and he does all of his dirty work for him, and that if the Lord of Beasts ever try to run him off, he has a secret place he has established, but he needs more supplies. He asks Auden what would he do if he kills the man that he's after. Auden hints to something dark and depressing, suicide, in his mind, but Yuza tells Auden to give up on this man and to live with him or by himself for his own mind's sake. It cuts to the Lord of Beasts, and Gregory offers the Lord of Beasts everything in his possession, even himself, if he will allow access to Odin's location to slay him. The Lord of Beasts laughs at this, telling him that people think beasts are monsters because they don't hide their brutality. Unlike humans who pretend to love and care but deep down love to hurt and make others suffer. Maybe they're the monsters. He grants him access if he kills Odin and Yuza along with him. Gregory and his men see Odin by himself and jumps him. He tells Odin he would do to Odin what he did to his brother, and Odin snaps, causing Devil Odin to come out and tells Gregory it's his fault what happened to Henry because he's too weak to save him, and starts going crazy, telling Gregory he would show him some tricks and would play with them all. This freaks out some of Gregory's men. After the battle, and after seeing Odin sadistically kill the soldiers, one of them flees. Odin then kills Gregory for defying God, and he catches the fleeing soldier. The soldier begs Odin to show mercy because he didn't want any of this in the first place, and he tells him Gregory sold everything, even the townspeople, and everything that they had to the Lord of Beasts to get to him, and all he ever wanted to do was go to the center of the world like the dream told him, and he cries out that he wants to live, causing lightning and an earthquake. This excites Odin because he knows that they're being summoned. The female god, I refer to her as the Golden God, tells the soldier his crisis reached them. Then the big-eyed, spiky, purple god appears, which I'll be referring to as Purple God, and Odin gets excited because he knows Rey will show up soon. Then the Greenhorn God, which I refer to as Green God, ignores the soldier and tells Odin that the wheel of life tipped in his favor. And finally, Rey appears. His eyes are closed and he's leaning against a tree, not saying a word. Odin talks about the familiar feeling he had when he first saw them, and he can't get his body to move, and his heart is racing in their presence. The soldier begins to beg the gods to help him, but he is interrupted by Odin. Odin yells at Rey, saying that he's been wanting to see him for so long, yet Rey won't even look at him. He attacks Rey with a magical glove, casting a spell so powerful that it nearly kills Odin. The strong attack is blocked by Rey's strong aura, not even hitting him. Rey stops leaning on the tree and opens his eyes and looks at Odin. They have a conversation they had in the past, if you remember, when they were training to take on the first Hunter's mission. Rey quotes Odin to insult him, saying, "Magic is for the weak. If someone uses magic, it's because they are too weak to rely on their own physical strength." This angers Odin, and he quotes what Rey said to him. "That's a dumb way of thinking. Why wouldn't you use magic? It could easily help you win against a strong opponent. Use everything you can in a fight." The Green God catches this and is greatly amused. Odin is so shook up that he can't even move, and he starts crying. Devil Odin comes out of him and he yells that he will show him what a real god is, and attacks Rey with his weapon. Rey says enough, and the air around him hits Odin so hard it throws him before his weapon can make contact. Odin is so mad because he's going to lose the opportunity to attack Rey, and the gods tell Odin they aren't there for him and ask the soldier what he wants. He is so thankful just to see the ones that he worships, and he tells them he wants Odin to be smited down for the pain he has caused his town and his lord. The Golden God will grant it, and Rey agrees, stating that Odin should be killed for his sins, and the Green God disagrees and mentions some of the cut content that Odin has done. His victims were evil people: an old couple selling children to beasts, a man torturing his neighbors, a queen abusing her powers and the poor, a child bullying other children so badly, which was the man's son in the beginning that he killed, and a man that is causing his co-workers a great deal of misery, which is the man he also killed in the beginning. She says they all deserved what Odin did to them. See, now this is important because you see all these jumps in Disc 2, like a few months and a few weeks and even 3 years. See, during all this time was when Odin was going around killing and torturing others to get them to summon the gods, to make them desire life so strong that they summon Rey, because he doesn't know how to get to him any other way. Now, not to justify Odin's actions, but most of the people that, and even the beasts that he's killed, were terrible people, like evil kings, queens, just random people or beasts, or bandits trying to attack them or terrorize others. But like the Golden God says here, there are some innocent beasts and people in the mix. Because the queen that Odin gains the trust of, and he's going to kill her, and the cut content is she grabs a poor child as a hostage, thinking Odin won't attack, and he ends up cutting the child in her in half, without giving a second thought. Because like I said with Olin earlier, that the devil is there talking to him most of the time in his mind, and he tells him not to worry about it because God does what he wants. And that was just part of God's plan to move on. Anyways, the Green God wants him to live to see how far Odin can entertain her, and the Golden God asks the Purple God what say you. And he says not to kill Odin because they don't need to worry about him for reasons the gods know about. Since it's 2 against 2, they don't kill Odin and leave it up to the will of life. And bless the soldier, telling him to listen and follow the path they made for him, and he will be saved. The gods leave, and the soldier changes, and Odin goes absolutely insane because he missed his opportunity and takes it out on the soldier. After the battle, the soldier knows he can't beat Odin and prays the gods make a way for him to escape, and he escapes. The beasts tell Yuza these men were going to attack Odin, but they see that Odin ran them off by himself. Odin is mad because the angel and God got away, and he starts cutting himself, and he states that he did bad things and tried so hard to get to Rey. And when he hears Child Odin in Odin's mind say, just to get the chance to talk to him, the Child Odin is quickly suppressed by Devil Odin and says, and to kill him in himself. Yuza knocks Odin out to get him to stop this episode and carries him home. A few weeks go by and Audin's mind is shattered. He sits in a dark room with no lights, barely moving, only to eat and to use the bathroom. He had Ray in his grasp, but now it's all in vain. He then has a dream to go to the center of the world, the dream that Henry and Gregory talked about. And then it cuts to the Lord of Beasts and his second in command, telling him that all the beasts they've sent out at the start of the war has either fled or have been defeated. The Lord of Beasts is shocked to hear this and wonders if he should make an army with the most elite beast. He then feels the presence of someone in the room, and it's Ray. Seeing him, the second in command kneels and isn't sure why, but he knows there's something important about him. The Lord of Beasts asks Ray, does he have something to do with this new army? Ray tells him to gather his people and to head to the center of the world, and that they won't have to worry about food, water, shelter, health, nor anyone hurting them on their journey. He also tells them he knows they had the dream and that their hearts will guide them where to go. The Lord of Beasts knows there's something about Ray, but is very angry about him ordering him around. He also knows Ray is the one destroying his army. He tells Ray he is one of the strongest beings, and that the two great armies and beasts around the world fear him. Ray cuts him off and warns him he has 4 hours to make his choice or he will be destroyed. The messenger believes Ray, and the Lord of Beasts tries to kill him, but the same wind that protects Ray from Audin's attack protects the messenger. He warns the Lord of Beasts again to tell his people to follow God's word, because those who refuse to leave or obey will be caught in the crossfire. Audin wakes up knowing where to go, and Yuza tells Audin the two beasts have left already, obeying the dream. Yuza tells Audin his self-inflicted wounds were hard to heal, and that he asks Audin, will he listen to the dream? Audin has a breakdown thanking and apologizing to Yuza, and wants to call him a friend, but Audin doesn't think he deserves it. Because with all the content, Yuza and him would have been really close friends, kind of like a mentor to Audin in a sense. Yuza tells Audin they are friends, and Yuza wants to save him, and tells him to go with him to the house that he has prepared and to forget about Ray. Audin refuses and tells Yuza that he will follow the dream, thinking it will lead him to Ray. And the two confirm that they are friends and they thank each other, and they go their separate ways. The Lord of Beasts is on his way to kill Yuza, but is conflicted because of Ray's words. Ray then appears and tells him the time is up, and for disobeying and not giving his people the push they need to obey, they shall die. And once it starts, if they want to be saved, it will be too late. The Lord of Beasts gets angry and denies Ray's God, and Ray tells him he knows that he is real, and that he is trying to cope with it because it is too late for him. The Lord of Beasts then attacks Ray, and we battle him with Ray, using gameplay to show how strong Ray is and has become compared to Disc 1. The Lord of Beasts realizes Ray isn't even trying and accepts that he's God, and Ray tells him time is up, and attacks him to heaven rain down, and Ray effortlessly kills the Lord of Beasts. Audin gets a feeling he shouldn't leave Yuza alone, but his body won't let him turn around, because where he obeyed the dream, he is guided and protected. After escaping the attack from the heavens unscathed, deep down Audin knows Yuza's been killed. He takes a break and the devil entity comes to him telling him to give up, because after witnessing the strength of God, he knows he can't win. He breaks Audin down and Audin starts to hurt himself. The devil even brings doubt to him over his relationship with Mila, stating that they only made love because he saved her for something tragic and she was just emotional. How can you call that love when two broken people are doing anything to escape their pain, using love as a means to escape? And that's going back to when she kissed Audin and he felt that it wasn't right because the mood and the circumstance. After comparing him to Olin and Lawson Ren, Audin asks him why does he torment him, and the devil states because Audin isn't God and that he is God, and God commands him to atone for his sins. He lures Audin to a cliff and he tells him to slit his wrist and stab his neck and jump. In case he survives the cuts, the fall will kill him, and vice versa. And that goes back to Disc 1 where Audin always talks about how he can't die, no matter what happens to him. After obeying, Audin has a dream about the time when he took one of the Lord of Beasts' quest. He was a Death's Door and thinks those that really matter to him. Then Yuza saved him, kinda like how Robin's doing now. Audin asks Robin what's going on. Robin informs Audin that he was spying on the Lord of Beasts to get intel on the new army for the inferior army because they predicted they was going to attack there. Robin saw nothing, but suddenly once they started attack, his body wouldn't let him near the city, similar to how Audin's was. He then came across Audin lying on the ground and rescued him. Audin asked where are they, and Robin tells them they're in a carriage on their way to report to the inferior army leader. They both get each other up to speed, and Robin tells Audin the day of the attack of Claiborne's castle, Ray started killing everyone in the Chandler. Afterwards, he ran after Ray and was attacked, leaving him blind in one eye. Now, this sort of happens in the original story. In the original story, Robin fights Ray twice. The first time he gets blind in one eye, and the second time he goes completely blind. More on that later. He then tells Audin a woman that was a Tricky saved him and trained him, making him into a Tricky. And one day, while they was out in town, the new army attacked, and he was the only survivor. He was then captured by the inferior army for information on the new army, which he had none, and he slowly started gaining the trust of the leader, and now he works for them. Audin then tells Robin his story, which he changes quite a bit to keep Robin from knowing the whole truth. And Robin is shocked at Ray's actions, and jealous of Audin for training with the father. They talk about the new army, which neither of them have information on. A random note here, I know so much time has gone by in Disc 2. Audin, I know, following most of the game, you would think he's 22, but after there's so many months later, and so many weeks, and more more months. Odin's actually 23, which would make Ray 24, and at the end of Disc 1 he was 19 and Ray was 20, to show how much time has went by since he last saw Robin, who was 24. Anyways, they arrive at their destination, and Robin, knowing Odin, tells him not to do anything rash because he's sticking his neck out to bring him there, to their leader. They arrive and they meet with the leader of the inferior army, Dinah. The soldiers don't approve of Odin being there, and being Big Mouth Odin, he is shocked to see the inferior army leader being young, since the war has been going on for some time. Dinah calms everyone down and tells Odin everything from the beginning. In the beginning, the Acolyte leader Hildrick started this war. He was just a commoner following God, going to church carrying God's message. He then had so many followers he started his own town. That's when he came across an artifact. He showed his followers the blessing from God, and they became advanced, forming the world's strongest army. So in search for the rest of the artifacts, they attacked a kingdom, which her father was part of. Prior to being attacked by the kingdom, he was the laughingstock of the army. They would all say that he was inferior. After he attacked, left the town in ruins, her father went searching for survivors and came across the artifact and killed the 2 guardians protecting it. That is what the Green God mentions in Disc 1, but the guardians didn't kill them. And with the artifact and with the knowledge bestowed upon him, he began to rebuild the kingdom. He even had help from beasts and outsiders, soon making an army that rivals the Acolytes. He wanted more artifacts to advance beyond God, and then the war for the artifacts started, and the Lord of Beasts wanted in on the action. Then her father died from an illness, and Dinah took over and obtained another artifact and advanced the army even more. She then talks about the new army, how they attack and conquer so fast that no one even sees them. They aren't sure what their goals are, but them attacking the Lord Beast proves the theory. She draws poorly on a piece of paper to demonstrate the attack pattern. They are taking everything from the outside and pushing everything to the center of the world. The Acolyte leader wants to make a treaty because they have a common enemy, but they suspect it's a trap. They will meet with Hildrick in a few days and will take most of their people with them because soon, according to the pattern, they will be attacked. They will take Odin with them and have Robin watch over him and have others watch over Robin to make sure Odin and Robin can be trusted, and basically force Odin to fight for them. Odin understands and he makes preparations. 2 days have gone by and the 2 armies are about to meet, and we see the gods having a discussion how their plans are in motion. The purple god tells Ray that they are ready, while Ray does his part. They will do everything on their end. He then mentions he will take care of the pursuer, and the green god laughs at the purple god, telling him not to get himself killed. The golden god warns Ray to stick to the plans and tells him they've noticed he's not been sticking to the rules. And the purple god threatens Ray and states just because you're the strongest doesn't give you the right to do as you please. Ray apologized, stating that he just wanted to speed up the process. The golden god tells him this isn't something to be rushed, and they disperse. It cuts to Dinah waiting for the Acolytes, and a mage states this doesn't feel right. It feels like something big's about to happen, and everyone feels the same way. Then Hildrick arrives with the remaining beasts of the world, and he explains he saw them wandering without their leader, and he told them about the peace treaty, and they agreed to combine their group. He explains how their foe effortlessly defeated the Lord of Beasts, so they need to end the war and join forces if they are to stand a chance. He tells Dinah with the combined strength of the 3 artifacts they might have a winning chance, but they need the last 2. Dinah's suspicious of Hildrick and tells him to come clean. He explains that he has been very close to God and has always followed God. That's why God gave him the artifact, and revealed many things to him. He loved God so much he tried to get close to him one day by experimenting with life essence on himself in an attempt to get closer to God. However, this angered the gods and they told him to stop. He did, but the Chandler wanted to continue the experimenting because of the power Hildrick gained. Hildrick shut him down, which made the Chandler upset because he was already obsessing over the experiment and the artifact. He tried to overthrow Hildrick, but was defeated and fled. He heard that the Chandler found the strongest artifact, the only one that God divided into 2, to make it hard to complete the set. He goes on to say that the artifacts aren't artifacts, they're God's repentance. When God repented, it made 5 orbs, which is why you gain some of his knowledge and power when you have them. Once you have 5, it will take you to God, unlocking the gates of paradise, leading the world to peace, which made Hildrick search for them. At first, he was giving riches to land in search of them, however, they would always double-cross him, which made him decide to search and take them by force. It may seem evil, but for it to lead to world peace, he had to do it, which is why he liked them to join forces and to find the remaining 2 orbs, combining their strengths and go to the center of the world. Find God and obtain peace. Dinah tells him maybe God repented for them to obtain the orbs to slay him, to advance the world where God couldn't, and the 2 start to bicker and Ray appears. Ray tells Hildrick to stop because he has done all he can do. Dinah sees that it's a trap and tries to attack Ray, but she can't move in his presence. Robin notices something's different about Ray and he kneels before him. Ray tells them to abandon everything and go to the center of the world. If they do, they shall be saved. Their heartache shall fade and the fighting will stop. Dinah asks Ray if he is God, why is he destroying everything, and he tells her people cry out to see God's strength, and now that he's showing it to them, they still rebel. And that everyone prays for peace and God's trying to give it to them, yet they won't obey. He then warns them the area will be destroyed soon, so either they obey or be caught in the crossfire. This angers Odin and he attacks Ray. Ray changes to his god form and effortlessly kills Odin, then brings him back to life and restores him, to show the onlookers his power. He gives them one final warning to obey before he summons his army, which are angels. He rewards Hildrick with the 5 artifacts because Ray had the other 2, and for him to lead everyone to the center of the world where peace awaits them. Hildrick is overwhelmed with the task, thinking that God will just take him there, but he understands and he obeys. After everyone leaves, Dinah commands those that remain to fight the angels. Odin is angry because he wanted to die and Ray brought him back to life, and he goes after Ray. Odin catches up with Ray and he tells him they need to talk because his hatred for him is what's kept him going for this long. He asks Ray why did he revive him and does he have no remorse, like how Ray said to him on the roof at Mila's house. Ray tells Odin he did that to make an example out of him and for him to turn back and go die with the others. Odin starts to cry, telling Ray if it wasn't for him and Mila, but he is interrupted by Mirik, aka the angel they met on the first hunt. Ray summons him to babysit Odin because he has more important things to attend to. Merrick sees what Ray did to mess with him and he gets angry and threatens to kill Ray. Odin tells him to get lost and Merrick tells him he can't because he must obey the gods, but he would love to rip the two to shreds. He turns around to attack Ray, but Ray is unfazed. He swears to kill Ray himself after he kills Odin and Ray disappears and he attacks Odin. After the battle, Merrick tells Odin to heal because he wants to see if he can handle his angel form, and tells Odin he hates Ray when he became God because he's the only one that summons him all the time, and he wants to be left alone and the other gods respect that, but not Ray. They battle again, and after the battle, Merrick states that Ray must be a good distance away and gives Odin a golden helmet. Merrick tells Odin that if he wants to get to Ray, they have to work together, and that they're going to meet with the Golden Warrior at the scarce forest because they are targeting him. The helmet keeps Odin's thoughts and locations away from the gods so they might think he's been killed. Odin asks why is he helping him, and he states that he wants to kill them both for running him out of his home, and back then, he wanted to, but the Golden Warrior convinced him not to. But he would need help killing Ray. Merrick picks up Odin and takes him to the Golden Warrior. The Golden Warrior tells Odin he himself will smite down the gods, and Merrick gets mad realizing the Golden Warrior really doesn't have a plan. He tells Odin that the Purple God told him where his king's armor was, and it was in the scarce forest, and that he would tell Odin the truth. Now that Odin has the helmet, he can sense energy in the gods and angels and servants, and he tells them he felt a strong wave of energy that overpowers all of them, and it was coming from the prison from both him and Ray. He was going there to kill them thinking that they were the god, but they wasn't. He then goes on to say due to confusion he just watched over them and saw the pain Odin went through, but yet saw his kindness in his heart, which made him think of, instead of killing this energy, why not protect it? So he protected them from Merrick and other things from the cut content of the hunts and everything else. Then the night of the raid of the church, both of their energies that they gave off was stronger than the god of his time. Soon after that, Ray became God, and it was then that he realized that there were 4 gods, and that he knew the one he had to kill was Ray. And of all the gods, even the ones of his time, Ray is unlike any of them. That's when he knew he had to carry his king's wishes. He gives Odin the rest of his king's armor and his king's spear, telling him he would be able to smite down the gods with that equipment. But like how he wants to settle things with Ray, he must settle things with the Purple God, because he knows all the answers to his questions. And that after they talk, he will try to kill as many gods and servants and angels as he can. This angers Merrick even more, and he tells them that they need a plan, but they must kill the gods first, because if the gods fall, so does their army. Odin asks why does Merrick have a strong free will compared to the other angels, and he doesn't know that, but he tells them they should flee and come up with a plan. The Golden Warrior begs Odin to give him permission to go talk to the Purple God, and Odin understands his feelings and allows him. Merrick leaves angrily because he's being summoned. He then tells Odin that he will think of a plan himself. The Golden Warrior thanks Odin and tells him to go to the center of the world because his answers lie there, and that the Golden Armor will protect him from the gods. They will not know his location or his thoughts, and Odin asks the Golden Warrior for his name and to show his face. The Golden Warrior tells his name is Doran and shows his face. Inside the armor is a hideous decomposing skeleton. They split, and the devil Odin comes out saying that he finally has the power that he needs. We see Doran meeting with the Purple God, and the Purple God tells him he would tell him everything before laying him down to a peaceful rest. Then we see Child Odin stating that he never thanked him, and he means for everything, for letting him free from the cell, and saving him from Merrick, and protecting him on hunts, and when Ray tried to kill him, and for the armor, because when Ray fought Odin back at the end of Disc 1, Odin faints, and the Golden Warrior fights all the gods for a little bit to get them away from Odin, and he swoops him up and saves them. But he was too late to save Mila, because he was watching to see what Ray would do. And after seeing Ray kill Mila, he knew he had to kill Ray. And that's the end of Disc 2.